posterior commissure, but we really don't see much of it. And on your slide you might have or might not, but the purple is the gray matter, and so you would see it connecting on either side of the central canal. And I forgot to look and see if we see appendicle cells. Not stained on this one. Sorry, I had to take it out of focus. All right. And so, sort of just a fast look. Here's gray matter, white matter. Do you see? Not well stained, but what do we find in gray matter? What structures are we going to find, or what cell bodies? We're going to find neuron cell bodies and neuroglial cells, and that's what you're seeing. Now, they haven't been stained and like on the ox cord smear that you looked at, but these, you get an idea that these are actually neurons in here, and that's what we find in gray matter. Okay, just sort of going through. Posterior, so this barely shows up. You can see a little of it in the white matter, and then move on down central canal, anterior what fissure? Anterior.
Medial?
Median, of course, median fissure. And then we start to come down and see this tissue that's adhering right next to the nerve tissue. And this is the pia mater. And these are blood vessels, tiny little blood vessels under the pia mater. And so this should be arachnoid, and I'll know it's arachnoid if I move out and find the dura mater. There. Here's the dura mater. This only shows up on this slide. I don't think it shows up well on the other one. Dura mater, tough mother, big, thick layer. There would not be a space between the dura mater and the arachnoid, but in the preparation of the slide, you get a big space. Then you have the subarachnoid space that's filled with cerebral spinal fluid, and then the pia mater. So on this slide, we see the meninges. What you've got, your model, I can use the model to show to ask the meninges. And then let's move back up, and white matter is columns and tract, but we can't see them. It's just white matter. But if this was properly stained, what we would find is myelinated axons. These are the myelinated axons in the white matter. And then, of course, the neurons and neuroglia cells in the gray matter. And then we'll look at the horns. So we're on our posterior side. This is the posterior horn, and this is where we have sensory information coming in. So if I move over, I'll find the dorsal root, and it will come in, bring in the sensory information, and start synapsing with either somatic sensory or visceral sensory with interneurons within the gray matter. Move on, so we're sort of moving backwards out, so sensory information would come in the dorsal root. And then if we follow it further down, we should find a dorsal root ganglion, more dura mater. Follow it down. These are axons, myelinated axons. And here we find the dorsal root. Look at the big sensory neurons in there. You can get them. The big pseudo-unipolar neurons surrounded by satellite cells in the dorsal root ganglion. And again, way down here. These are cross-sections through the myelinated axons that have left this, and they're headed for the dorsal root and for the posterior horn. Then let's come back to the gray matter. We have about the area of the lateral horn and then the anterior horn. So this is where we have motor commands leaving the gray matter. So we'll have interneurons that are synapsing with the motor neurons within the gray matter. So these neurons we see might be interneurons, they might be motor neurons. Their axons then leave by way of the ventral root. So now we're efferent division of the peripheral nervous system. And we don't see them cutting through here because the dorsal root and the ventral root are not at the same level. So we saw the dorsal root coming in, but the ventral root does not leave at the same level, so it's inferior And so we can't see where these axons exit, but they do, they exit through, and they form the ventral root. So this is the ventral root. And eventually we'll go out, whoops, we didn't go far enough. But eventually out here, we'd get the spinal nerve. Well, this might be spinal nerve. I'll take it to a higher magnification. But right now, I don't see any sensory neurons in there. So this is where the ventral root would reach